In this nugget, we are going to explore a summary of the plot of Chapter 1, The Science of Deduction. We are going to begin with a brief summary of the chapter and then go through the chapter in more detail. The novella begins with Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson at their house, 221B Baker Street. Holmes does not have a case to solve, and so he is bored. Watson asks Holmes to tell him some information about a pocket watch. Holmes uses observation and deduction to examine the watch, making deductions about the owner of the watch. He gets every detail correct, and Watson is very impressed. Now we are going to go through the events of Chapter 1 again, from the beginning, this time in more detail. The novella opens with Sherlock Holmes taking cocaine. Dr. John Watson, Holmes's lodger, expresses his concern for Holmes's drug taking. He suggests that Holmes should think about the effects it will have on his health. Holmes ignores the advice. He believes that, for him, the benefits outweigh the risks of consuming the drug. In the Victorian era, drugs were widely available. Nowadays, we are much more aware of the many negative effects that substance abuse has on the human body. Holmes speaks to Watson about his profession or his job as a consulting detective. A consulting detective is a private investigator hired by someone to do a job. Holmes is not currently working on a case. He believes that the drugs help to energise him when he does not have a case to solve. Holmes says, "My mind rebels at stagnation." It's revealed that Watson has written a brochure about a previously solved case called A Study in Scarlet. Holmes is critical of Watson's writing, claiming it is too emotional. He would prefer it to be factual and exact. Holmes believes that detection is, or ought to be, an exact science. Holmes reveals that he has been in contact with a detective in France and has been helping him to solve a case. He has also been writing specialist books on the science of detection, including types of tobacco and tracing footsteps. Holmes uses observation and deduction to demonstrate Watson's movements around London that morning. He visited Wigmore Street Post Office to send a telegram. The word deduction here means to reach an answer by considering all the evidence. Watson is shocked and impressed at Holmes's skill, but Holmes simply states that you just need to eliminate all other factors and the one that remains must be the truth. In order to further test Holmes's deduction skills, Watson hands him a pocket watch and asks Holmes to tell him about its previous owner. Holmes observes that the watch has a pawnbroker ticket number etched onto the case. This means he can deduce that the owner lived mostly in poverty and drank excessively until his death. Holmes also observes that the keyhole is very scratched where the key has slipped. This means he can deduce that the owner was untidy and did not take care of his possessions. Holmes also observes that the letters HW are engraved on the back. This means he can deduce that the watch belonged to Watson's older brother. Watson confirms that Holmes was correct about the watch and his brother. He apologises for doubting Holmes's deduction abilities. Watson asks whether Holmes has any potential cases. Holmes replies he has no leads at present. He complains about his boredom and explains this is why he has been taking cocaine. He states, "I cannot live without brain work." Holmes's housekeeper, Mrs. Hudson, appears at the door. She announces that there is a young lady that has come to see Holmes. Arthur Conan Doyle uses Mrs. Hudson's announcement to interrupt Holmes. It signals the arrival of a new client and the beginning of a new case, just as Holmes is despairing with his boredom. Holmes does not know the young lady, who is called Miss Mary Morstan, but will see her anyway. He asks Watson to stay to meet Miss Morstan.